Welcome to the Golden Storyteller. Hi, this is your host Rex, and thank you for tuning in to another one of our storytelling adventures today. I'm going to talk about the Coors Porcelain Company and the clay pits, and I affectionately call this one the Coors Porcelain Cannon. When I grew up in Golden, there is a series of clay mines that you can see this picture here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on podcast, you may want to look this up. Along the hogback of the Front Range in Colorado, there were a set of uh, formations of clay deposits that were deposited, 60 million years ago or so. And in those deposits was the perfect number 10 clay that was used for making bricks, and especially fire bricks. In the around the turn of the century, the Golden Fire Brick Company used a lot of the clay to make fire bricks. If you're not familiar with fire bricks, those are ones that can sustain heat and they're built for chimneys. In addition to that, Coors Porcelain Company used a lot of the clay from these mines. So if you look at this picture, this is an aerial. The clay pit mines ran along what is now currently 6th Avenue. So the backside of, or the south side of the Colorado School of Mines, and along 6th Avenue, adjacent to the properties owned by the Parfait family for the longest time, who were owners of the mines, and the backside of Golden High School. So these mines were very, very profitable, and they were able to dig them out. So you can see the scars in the picture here that are running horizontally, the ridges between where they would mine the clay out. Today, a lot of that property looks like this. It's part of the Fossil Ridge or Fossil Trace golf course that is a fantastic golf course. And you can actually kind of go and see, they filled it in and stuff. But when I was a kid, the clay pits was an adventure land. So the Coors Porcelain Company started in 1910 as a China company, and then Adolf Coors bought the company and started to take control of it about 1913. So they made fine china and wares. Throughout the years, different names and structures of the company, but it's currently owned by the Coors Tech, which is and held by the trust by the Coors family. Its estimated value in 2018 dollars is about $2.5 billion. Most people don't even know it exists. It's a low-profile industrial type company that manufactures all kinds of products from ceramics and porcelain. Now, when I was a kid, we went up there in this kind of adventure area, and the porcelain pits were more like this, where you could see and walk in between them. This became the abandoned area there. This became kind of a dumping ground for two things: porcelain, uh, manufacturing remnants and stuff, and then also Coors put in their own coal burning facilities, and so the ash that was left over from the coal was trucked up there and dumped in there to fill it in. So up there in our adventurous days, we had found these magnitude, and I mean almost endless amounts of what they're called porcelain tumbler balls. Now, porcelain tumbler balls are used in like a rock tumbler to shine and to mill and refine. Now, when you're using porcelain balls like this, they're much easier to maintain than steel balls, and they actually do a better job of milling and refining. And you use multiple sizes because it helps to get inside of nooks and crannies and those types of things. So there were tons and tons of these porcelain balls that you see on the screen here if you're watching the YouTube channel, and they were out there on the ground. Well, my dad had discovered these on hiking one day, and we went up there with 5-gallon buckets. And then the 5-gallon buckets, we would bring them home. And I don't know, my dad was kind of a scrounger. He was scavenger of all kinds, and we brought these home and we would play with them and roll them down the hill and down the sidewalks, whatever. Well, in our high school years, we went through this whole phase of pyrotechnics as teenagers. We had access, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, to black powder. My friend Nick, one of my closest friends growing up, I'm not sure why his mom would allow this, but we used to pool our money together. We called ourselves the Poor Four and Warren, four friends, Nick, Rex, Benny, and Richard, and then Warren. And we'd pool our money together, and Nick's mom would take us out to Old West Arms on Colfax. Old West Arms was a gun shop, and she would actually allow us to buy black powder. Now, in 2018, that would be considered child abuse. In 2018, people think you were crazy that an adult would actually buy us gunpowder, but it enabled us to create all kinds of mischief. And part of that mischief is what I call the Coors Porcelain Ball Cannon. Now, the Coors Porcelain Ball Cannon looks similar to this. It was a piece of drill octagonal. This is only a hexagon, but it was a piece of drilling pipe with the core center rod out of the middle. So when it was used to drill, that the materials would come up and out of the center. So over at the G.H. Stewart junkyard, we found a section of this. It was about 18 inches long. Being a farm kid that I was, I knew how to weld, and we did have a welder at the house. And so we plugged it. So imagine this, an 18-inch piece of steel pipe with a center, so it's just like a rifle shaft, but it had thick walls like this, and so, but it was octagonal, 18 inches long. So we welded one end closed and plugged it. Then we drilled about 3 inches up a fuse outlet. So we drilled a hole in it so you could stick a fuse. And then we would proceed to fill it with black powder and then a little bit of wadding, to protect the powder from the projectile. And then we would go back and use these porcelain balls as projectiles. So they were bullets. And so we were dangerous. We had a cannon. Now, those of you who have been around porcelain, it's extremely dense, very, very hard material. And so we didn't even know and we didn't realize the combination of the deadly force that we had when we were playing around with this. I mean, we were 14, 15, 16 years old when this was happening. So we got this piece of the cannon, and it was about 18 inches long. And we then built a small wooden stand or a wooden apparatus so you could aim it. You could tilt it so it had a spark that you could tilt. So we started testing this, and we would fire the cannon into all kinds of things. Well, just a couple doors down from Nick, a boy that we went to school with, his name was Sean, and Sean had totaled his Ford Mustang. Back in the day, growing up in the 1970s, late 70s and early 80s, Ford Mustangs were all the bomb. Well, Sean had one of these Mustangs where he had hit it, and they had it in the backyard down at the foot of their lot, and it was basically sitting there to, I don't know, salvage, hold on to, whatever. They just didn't do anything with it. So one day we went down there with the cannon or on the edge of Nick's yard and aimed it at Sean's Mustang. And lo and behold, we fired the cannon, and those porcelain balls would go right through the doors. So right through the steel doors of a Ford Mustang. And then we would shoot it through the fence. We shot it through a brick wall. We shot it everywhere, and it was absolutely dangerous. And we didn't realize the consequences of what we had. We were literally playing with fire, more than fire, because the projectiles of these porcelain balls, they'd go through anything. I mean, just anything. Um, right next door to Nick's house, there was a family that all had girls, and they were all beautiful blonde girls, and we were always trying to get their attention. And I think Nick had a big crush on Lori at the time, or one of the daughters. I don't quite remember all their names. It would take me a while. So we were trying to get their attention. We fired the cannon through the fence, and we put a couple of holes to the fence. So it was really dangerous. But the one story of the cannon that was an act of stupidity is we decided what would it be like if we could fire the cannon through a can of starter fluid. Oh my goodness, what stupid we were. Starter fluid is one of the most flammable and explosive. And that's why it's called starter fluid because it's so explosive. And so we took the cannon and loaded it. So put black powder in, a fuse into the cannon, and then aimed it at a can of starter fluid. So just a 16-ounce can of starter fluid that came a spray kind. So the spray aerosol version of starter fluid. We set the starter fluid about 6 inches from the um, mouth of the cannon, so the exiting where the bullet, so it wouldn't miss it. And Rich was the one that decided that he would be brave enough to go ahead and be the person to light the fuse. So uh, he puts the fuse in there, leans over this because it's on the ground. We have it set on the ground. The spray can is in front of the cannon barrel, and he lights the fuse. The fuse goes so fast that it exploded immediately, and the gunshot, the ball shot through. Well, it went through the can, and it was because it was such force. The can pretty much exploded in a huge ball of flames. So Rich is bent over this thing, and poof, it blows up, and this huge ball of flame just comes up out of the can and singes his whole face. So his eyebrows are singed off, his eyelashes. He has like a light burn on his face, his lips, the whole thing. And he's standing there and he's screaming in pain, and we're over there laughing at him. I mean, we're absolutely laughing. So, that's the insensitivity and craziness of teenage boys. I don't ever know what happened to that cannon. It was really lethal. And we also then from that point in time, because of welding skills, we went on to do all kinds of other things with pipe bombs and Estes rockets and all kinds of stuff. And that's another story I want to tell another time. So I just wanted to share our ingenuity from bebopping around the clay pits as kids, finding all of those tumbler balls, and then the ingenuity to put together our own little cannon and build ourselves a lethal weapon that today we would have all gone to jail. There would have been nobody had a sense of humor about that. And we would have had big trouble. So until next time, tune in to the Golden Storyteller. This is your host, Rex. And until then, stay golden.